So we're back with episode 3 of Produce 101 Japan Season 3, The Girls. It's still a mouthful every time I say it. But this episode, it was actually a pretty good episode. And I'll tell you why. Like, at first, we kind of get past the kind of, like, just kind of pointless stuff, which is seeing who goes from Class F to Class A. So we have 6 people rise out of Class F, which is good for them because 6 people get to be seen performing the signal song rather than what do you call it, not performing it. And then a couple of people do go into Class F as well, which means they don't get to perform the song. They're disqualified because anyone in Class F will not get to perform. And then other than that, in Class A, a bunch of people went into Class A, but 5 people fell from Class A. And that was basically how the classes were reshuffled. And so there is a list of them, but I'm not going to bother going through them right now because I think it's irrelevant ultimately. But what you get to see after this is that they vote for a center for the signal song, and each of them get to perform, and they get to see how they do up to this point. And so it seems like they had to practice the song a little bit, and then now you get to see them all perform. And ultimately, what happens is Sakura Miyu does get the center according to all the other trainees, and so it's kind of a miscongeniality thing. And I thought that there was going to be like a dance off to decide it, but in many ways there was a dance off, but it wasn't in the same way that they typically do it, which is kind of like, you were served, right? But it wasn't like that in this case. They just perform the song and they just judge their skills according to their own, each trainee's tastes, I guess. And so you get past this, and we get to the actual meat of the show, which is the setup for the group dance battle. And so basically, for the group dance battle, we have 16 groups, and they're fighting for a benefit, which is 3,000 bonus points. Now, up to 8 groups can get these 3,000 bonus points. And what this means is that there's 8 songs, and so with 16 groups, that means one group is going to be fighting against another group by performing the song, and whoever wins gets the bonus points. And so that is how it went. There was a interesting team selection thing going on here. I won't get too much into it because it's kind of just like it is what it is. We have people randomly being chosen as leaders, and then they chose 5 other members. Now Sakura Miyu, she had a special benefit, which is that after everyone chose their teams, she got to poach anyone she wanted for all members of her team. And then there was a leftover team, and they got to kind of one person in the end won a game of rock paper scissors, and they got to choose to poach one person for their team, and they end up choosing kind of the oddest member, which is Ayaka. And the thing about Ayaka is that, where is she? Well, after the leftovers chose Ayaka, the thing about Ayaka is that she was a level C, and then she fell to an F, and so she wasn't really ranked that highly. But I think initially she did rank highly, and so I don't know if people just thought that she was better than she was, but she basically was put in a place of pressure to lead this group of leftovers, when I don't even think she was the highest member of, highest ranked or highest class of that group. But anyways, it just led to some drama later on. I'll get into that later. But for now, we'll just move forward. They chose songs by some kind of running face challenge, which is like they spin around and then they grab something off the board before anyone else does. That's how they chose a song. But we'll just get right into the performances now, because we're not really going to talk too much about the practice, just a little bit as we get into the competitions. And so the first one is How You Like That by Blackpink. So there's 2 teams for this. There's a red team and a white team. And so Team Red consists of Ando Yui, Sasaki Tsukishi, Sakaguchi Reno, Abi Nagome, Kamade Moe, Aramaka Joa, and they're called the Black Cats. Now, Moa, she was the leader of the group. She was like, and then Tsukushi was leading the kind of practice. But they did notice that there was a divide between the higher ranked class and the lower classes, and they were kind of practicing separately. And then Yumeki, who was the trainer, saw them in training, and he was not happy. And he said they were getting worse, and how they were performing was kind of in low quality. He also said that Abe Nagome, the youngest one, suited the song the least, and what ended up happening is she lost heart during practice and basically relied on Moe and Ando Yui in order to find her footing again. Now, during practice, Moe was apparently not noticeable, and Yumeki, he suggested changing the center because of that, but the group decided to keep her. And then in a later practice, he said that she improved a lot. Now, I think that Moe is a good choice for a leader because Moe kind of has this interesting look. But then what happened is that I guess in practice she just didn't have the charisma in order to perform it in on the same level as her look, which is kind of very unique. I would say she does have a striking look, but I guess at the moment she wasn't practicing okay. But later on, after practicing, she did fit into the role a lot better. But let's get into their performance now. During their performance, I felt that Yui's vocals were not that strong, and then Tsukushi did stand out. And then Moe, she was just okay, but she wasn't bad. And then Joa probably seemed the most sloppy to me. And then Nagomi, she was okay, slightly shaky. But other than that, I think the strongest point for this team was that when they were unified in their choreo, it worked really well. And so that's just basically my overall impression of this performance. Basically, I thought it was okay, but I was kind of distracted by some of the little things just being not as good as it could have been. Like I feel like I've seen other groups do it better on reality shows. But then the next team up is the white team, and so when it comes to the white team, their team show up. It consists of Wakimoto Mihaya, Tanaka Hana, Shibuya Mei, Sekiguchi Rikako, Kato Konami, and Ando Chiharu. And so this team in practice were very much discouraged compared to their competition because their competition, I guess on average, had a higher class than they did. And then Yumeki in practice, the trainer here, he said that they didn't appear motivated. Like he said that he couldn't even evaluate them at that moment because they just weren't ready. And so he was disappointed with them, and he said that really they need to work as a team. Now, Ken, the 390, who was the rap trainer, he also said something uh, about the May chasing the rap section lyrics and needing to emphasize them at the right points. And then, as for Mihaya and Hana, they just needed to improve in confidence through their performance. And I feel like overall the message behind this team's practice is that they just needed more practice. And it was just kind of tedious work to get them past the humps in their lack of confidence. Now, it gets to their performance, and in my opinion, I feel like they started stronger than the other team. I noticed Chiharu had very strong facial expressions, and I think the vocal overall was stronger than the first team. In my opinion, the moves snapped better. And then the only negative I would say about this performance was during the rap section, they seemed to change the timing of the lyric in their interpretation, and I feel like that's something they shouldn't change because it kind of just throws you off. It seems like a mistake. It seems like you're struggling to get it. But other than that, I think that they did better than the other team, actually. So these guys get to their scoring, and the audience, and I never agree with the audience, by the way. I feel like the audience always does a bad job, and that's just because the audience, I guess, is too moved by certain biases, which have nothing to do with the performance a lot of the time. And so, what ended up happening is Black Cats, the first team, won, although I just don't agree with it at all. Actually, I feel like the votes were not based on the performance, except for the rap section. I feel like they got the rap vote correctly, but for the rest of it, I feel like they didn't get it right. Actually, let's go to my bingo cards here. There, I feel like votes were not equal to talent. Now that section of my bingo card. Okay, let's get back. And so the winner, yeah, Team Red won, and really it just felt like it was a popularity contest. And so at this point, I don't have a lot of confidence in the live audience to judge the show. But anyways, we get to the next team, and the next team is Love Dive. And so all these teams come out, and you have the two teams. One is Team Melty, and one is Team Queen Bee. And I don't know why I said it that way. But Team Melty has Tabata Nana, Mogi Shion, Sakata Kotane, Yoto Hana, Yoshida Hana, and Kurakawa Honoka. And Sakata Kokane is the leader. And so this team in practice, Yumeki was judging them during their, I guess, interim reporting, and he said the standards for the song are too high, and that this team is just kind of average. And if Yumeki says you're average, in my opinion, that's not a bad thing. I feel like you just need work. But it seemed like in the way he said it, he didn't have a lot of faith in them to continue. By the way, the chat seemed to really like Yumeki's expressions, but I feel like he only has one expression. I don't think I've ever seen him happy. Other than this, there was another trainer, well, two other trainers. So Lee Hung-gi steps in order to rate the vocals, and I noticed that he was trying to micromanage the delivery. And mainly his issue was with Tabata Nana, and Tabata Nana was basically delivering the lines in, I guess, too cute of a way, which didn't kind of mesh with the concept of the song. And so this worried her a lot. She ended up being stressed and crying behind the scenes. A little bit later, these guys also performed for Nakasone Reno, and she basically told them to continue with the same idea of just like working on the theme and the concept. And so, she just basically said she can't feel that they're giving off the vibe of the song. So during their performance, now in my opinion, I thought overall it was actually okay. The only thing I would say is I didn't notice Hanukkah during practice, but she did best during the actual song. And so that kind of like, it was interesting because they didn't mention her at all. And then suddenly in the song, she's kind of carrying them, in my opinion. Now, Yoshida Hana, she got a lot of screen time, but I felt like she was kind of giving me mixed vibes. Like, I didn't really feel her performance that. It wasn't, like, doing things for me. And then the others were they looked a little bit bland. Now, I don't know about Tabata Nana overcoming her looking too cute for the performance, but I feel like to some degree she still kind of did. But most of this team wasn't really. I'm guessing it's because the rest of the team kind of just looked bland, and so none of them were able to give advice on how to overcome this or keep each other in check. I feel like because the rest of the team wasn't really doing it that well, except for obviously Hanukkah, who I said was doing actually pretty good during this performance. No one could help Nana basically overcome this. Or maybe it's just an edit, and we didn't see all of it on the show. Okay, so the next team is Queen Bee, the Team Blue. It has Uchiyama Rin, Yoshida Ayano, Matsushita Miyu, Kitazate Ryo, who I feel like she keeps doing extremely well in votes, but on the show she's clearly not ranking very well. And so I feel like this is kind of like an early fave coasting, and so let's just go to bingo. Early fave coasts. I feel like that's a fair point. You can feel free to disagree and let me know why you think otherwise, but I feel like she's not really getting by on merit. We also have Tanabe Karen in this team, and then we have Kamio Ayano. And Matsushita Miyu is the leader of this group. Uh, Now, during practice, you will notice that Uchiyama Rin, here on the left, far left, she has the best vocal, and you can just hear it right away. Now, according to Yumeki, our favorite judge here, he was saying that Kamio Ayano was not confident in her dance. And I noticed also that there's two Ayanos in this team, by the way. So this one is Kamio Ayano, and I think the one next to her is Yoshida Ayano. Oh wait, maybe that's not the one next to her. I think it's one like few down. Okay, so the few down, second from the right. Yoshida Ayano actually started struggling too in practice. And as for the next trainer, it was Aoyama Thelma who said that Yoshida Ayano needed to kind of level up because she wasn't on the same level as the other members. And so I guess her performance just wasn't good enough in practice. Rin also started to feel pressure because apparently she lost her voice after practicing too hard and it got to her. And you know what? She was basically... they relied on her a lot for vocals because hers was actually pretty good. But anyways, let's get into the performance. So during performance, I felt like Rin had good vocal, and it was obvious that this was going to be the case. Another thing is that Miyu, the leader, she had really good facial expressions. And I feel like Karen was kind of invisible. But the girls of this group matched the vibe of the song better, in my opinion. Like, they just all looked the part. And then, in terms of Yoshida Ayano, who was not doing that well in practice, I feel like her vocals were the weakest. But she dances well still. And then Kamio Ayano, she has an interesting plain voice. Like, I didn't expect it. It's kind of like a husky, kind of like, but it's a plain voice at the same time. It's kind of like, reminds me of Mina. She doesn't sound like Mina from Twice, but she has a kind of like plain voice like Mina, which is just kind of like, not like a lot of vibrato or anything. It just kind of comes across nice and like, it's hard to explain really. But it's not like, doesn't have a lot of vibrato or a lot of like texture in it. It just comes across plain, but it's not like a talking voice either. But anyways, I think like this group, the blue team, did way better overall than the white team, which is Melty. Now, in terms of the final winner, now the only thing that surprised me is that Yoshida Hana scored so much higher than Miyu did, and I feel like Miyu was kind of robbed in that respect because Miyu was like a great team leader, and she also performed the song well. Whereas Yoshida Hana, whenever I saw her, she gave me mixed vibes. Like sometimes she seemed good, and then sometimes she didn't, and it just like based on her performance, her live performance in the moment. But she did get highlighted a lot, and so I don't know if mainly she just got noticed and seen, and that's why she ranked way higher than Miyu in the score. But in the end, the ranking didn't matter that much. Queen Bee, the blue team, still won. And so even though there was like, even though Miyu only scored like a 5, and I think Hana scored like around 80 something. Even though that was the case, let's actually double check that. Yeah, okay, so it wasn't a 5. Miyu scored a 28, and then Hana scored 81. And so I was kind of surprised by that. But I wasn't surprised that Queen Bee, the blue team, won. So let's get to the next song. It's Mannequin. And there was a lot of drama in this team because these were the leftovers in the first group. This is called group Noburizaka 46, and they're the gray group just to make it easier to say. They're the leftover teams, like I said, and because of they had like a rock paper scissors thing, and over here this girl Misaki kind of gives me the vibe of like Kubota from Sakamoto Desuka. She basically chose Fujimoto Ayaka, in order to fill out this group. She was poached from another group, which was one of this girl's fears too. And then this girl ended up being really upset about that. And she was like crying during practice, and she was like uh, just upset and didn't know how to teach them as well, which is kind of strange because I noticed that Misaki is obviously the highest ranked person, but she chose this person. I guess they must have been together in another group or something, and she must have remembered her. I think Ayaka did come from Group C, so that might make sense why she knows who she is and why she chose her. But she was also saying that she didn't really know who to pick, and she was trying to avoid making a choice that would upset people too much. But it ended up upsetting somebody, and there was just a lot of drama and crying about it. But anyways, Ayaka was poached by the leftovers, and she was upset about it. But you know what? They worked through it, and there was improvement in practice. According to Yumeki, of all people, who decided to be supportive in the end. Let's just get straight to the performance. Oh, wait, before I do that, Kato Kagura kept missing moves during practice, and so that kind of was upsetting as well for her. Okay, so into the performance. So I felt like they didn't have a bad start at all. I felt like when they were singing as well, they sang in unison, and I thought that was really good for them. Now, in terms of individual singing, individual vocals when they were singing by themselves, it was just average. It wasn't bad. Kagura was kind of low energy during this performance, but at the same time, I'm like, when is she not low energy? That's how she always is, and she kind of lacks the expression, you know? But for the team overall, I thought this might be the choreo, but then seeing the next team after them changed my mind about it. But the moves, especially during like the cactuar moves, but the stair climbing move, it was kind of like mechanical seeming. In terms of this performance, Mayu and Mimi looked the happiest. Like these two, but then they seem to be overlooked the most, and I feel like they ranked lower as well. But I feel like they deserved a little bit better because I feel like they did pretty good. Now the next team going up against them was Team Waiki, or the white team. It has Nakamura Aoi, Akiyama Emma, Takami Ayane, Kano Miyu, Kobayashi Sei, and Hata Mina, who Hata Mina is one of my top 11s. I like her a lot. Emma and Miyu needed to practice until 5 a.m. to memorize their moves, but then it all paid off because Yumeki actually liked them in practice. And they even had like an ending prepared, which was different than the stock choreo. And so this team, they were kind of doing well, and then they decided to start adding in little, what would you call them? Kind of like toppings, extra toppings. And because of that, the coach in the rehearsal actually thought that what they were doing was a mistake, where they threw their hairbands here, and they said that it just looked wrong. And I feel like it was awkward, and it's because the way they did it was kind of inconsequential, and so it does look like they're just dealing with a problem in the way they threw it away. There was like no expression, and so it was just it was just the way they interpreted it and the way they performed it. I feel like maybe it could have worked if you did it a different way, but they tried it one way, which looked like a throwaway, and then they tried it the coach's way, and it didn't improve. But I noticed even Hata Mina's face while doing it was like straight, like she just like looked straight faced, and Hata Mina had good expressions during the performance, and so it's not like she can't do it better, but it seemed like I'm not sure what the vibe they were going for was in the end, but for them they were like saying that they were trying to like remove their shackles or something. Now during the actual performance, now I felt like compared to the first team performing the song, this team was already holding better feminine posture during the dance moves, and so those moments like the stair climber, the cactuar kind of move, it already looked better. It didn't look mechanical. In fact, even just the way they were walking was like, it was kind of like catwalking in a way. And so, or already they were just interpreting the moves better overall, and the team was just better equipped and more confident in giving off the stylized effect that this kind of dance probably needs. It's like these dance moves are not that great. The choreo is not that great for this kind of group, but this kind of choreo is meant for like a much bigger group. Uh, Ayane had really good vocals during this. Now we already knew that she was already a good vocalist, but she went above on here. It was very obvious that it was so strong it kind of carried them in a way, but they were good on their own as well. Now Sei's vocal was probably the weakest, but I still think they did better than the first team overall as well. Now Hyoe, I felt like she was slightly off on timing and certain moves, but Hata Mena overall was the strongest soldier in the team besides Ayane. And it's just because Hata Mena was doing very good expressions. And according to Hongi, the trainer, the vocal trainer, he said Emma stood out, but honestly, I didn't notice her at all. Maybe the show didn't show her, or she just didn't stand out to me. But yeah, I didn't notice Akiyama Emma during this performance. And so that might be the show editing, or it just might be me. Now, in terms of deciding the winner, now for this, Ayaka, I noticed that she was upset about losing against Ayane, and she was all like, I should have tried more. But this is not really something you could change. I feel like it's out of her control. Like, if she thought that she could work harder and beat Ayane on the vocals, that's just kind of like not something that would have happened. And so I feel like her crying about it was kind of irrational, but I can understand her being kind of emotional overall just from the whole situation. But if she felt like she could like grasp this victory, I feel like it was kind of a done deal. And it was a done deal just based on all the circumstances surrounding it. So yeah, Team Wakey, the white team, they won. Now in terms of the last team, I'm not sure if I should get into this because we're only going to see half of them perform and then they end up with a cliffhanger ending. But the basic gist of this is that for some reason, Aita Rin and Kurihara Kano were the only ones in this team that were able to perform initially because the other ones got the flu. And so I think that counts as like a medical emergency in a way. Medical emergency drama. I'll just take that one for myself. And then there was all this issues where because of the team not being there, she started crying and she was supported by Miyu's team. But I don't think they practiced together. As far as I know, they didn't. They didn't show it. At least I didn't notice it if they did. But you know what? We ended up getting to practice. And Nakasone Reno was actually very supportive of them. And after she saw them, she actually said that they were actually quite good at the performance. And basically, the only advice she could give them is to practice the vocal. And I think it's because they didn't really sing during their dance. But she was overall kind of impressed with them. And she thought they had good work ethic. And after this, she was kind of like saying she wished she had more dancers and performers like them who had good work ethic and just continued to work despite their circumstances. Now, when the rest of the team finally started joining the practice, they were able to catch up because apparently Rin was sending them written notes with diagrams and stuff, and they were using that to catch up. So I guess I don't know if they were fully sick, they just had to be quarantined, but they seemed to be able to practice a little bit on their own. And so when they got together, I guess they just cleaned it up a bit. But that's basically it. So during the actual performance, the starting vocal was interesting, and it's because of Ida Shizuku, who was actually the highest class member in the group, but her voice was kind of weird. Like, I think maybe she was like singing in out of her range, and it was weird because she had so many lines, despite not singing that well, and for having such a odd delivery. It's like sometimes she was actually, I wouldn't say it was, well, it was kind of cracking, in that it was out of her range. Like, it wasn't even a good, like, falsetto. It was kind of just, like, not good singing. But other than that, Kano performed well. Dancing was pretty consistent across all the members. And the only thing I would say that is that Coconuts expressions could use some work, but overall they weren't bad. And that was pretty much it. So I'm not getting into any other commentary besides that on the performance, because we don't have all the teams finished performing. Sorry, what am I saying? This is a competition, and so the second team was given to us in a cliffhanger. We didn't get to see them practice or perform, and so I don't know what's going to happen with Body and Soul. We'll have to wait until the next episode. But so far, we got new rankings and new classes here in this spreadsheet that I updated. And so you can see that the top 11 so far is Kato Kokoro, who moved to first place, Kasahara and Momona, who moved to second. You have Yamamoto Suzu, who's now third, Sakurai Miyu, who's fourth, Emihara Suzumi, who's fifth, and I feel like she dropped. Ishii Ran is sixth. Sasaki Kokona is seventh. Kenbotsu Nano is eighth. Tanaka Koto is ninth. Takami Ayane is 10th. And Kitazate Ryo is 11th, which I don't understand. So I have her ranked as double B class. That's like, so mine has, if you're an S, a double S, or a triple S, doubles are better than singles. So if you're a triple S, you're like at the highest, which is, I have Okumura and Anna there. And then you have double A's and double B's. So she's a double B, according to my rankings. Not very highly ranked. I can't remember what position she was in before, but not very high. And then she was initially ranked by other members of her trainees as a C. And then when she was ranked by the coaches after initial practices, she got dropped to class F. But she's been maintaining a pretty good ranking. She was in 8th last week, and now she's 11th, and so she is dropping a little bit. Now, Ayane surprised me. I did not have her that high ranked. I actually had her ranked even behind Rio, but I didn't know she could sing. But now she's singing well, and she's performing well, and so she was in A. She dropped to B because dancing is harder, and she only slightly dropped in her ranking from week to week. Now, Tanaka Koto has been rising. She started as C, but she got to A. And then she started at 13, but got to 9. And so people seem to really, like, I think that's the show kind of driving that. Because they're kind of highlighting that she's doing well. And so some people watch and they're just like, oh, she's doing well, let's support her. And then Kenbotsu Nanu, she's a class S, which is really high ranked for me. But she started as a B, she's still a B, but she's increasing in terms of the voting. So she was in 14th place, now she's in 8th place. She breached the top, top 11. Sasaki Kokona, she got highlighted on the first episode. I have her as a rank A. She got highlighted as having a really good expression for her initial group performance. At kind of like, it's not audition, but it's showcase day. She was ranked 6th, but she dropped 1 place to 7th. And I feel like she hasn't been expressing herself well on dance. Ishii Ran, I have her as a double B. I don't know where she's coming from, but she seems to be rising in ranks. I guess she did well during last episode and rise to an A, so people are recognizing that. And also, she's kind of being pitched as the competitor to Miyu. Emihara Suzumi, I have her as an A. She started as a 3, and then she dropped to a 5, but she stayed in A rank, which I'm pretty surprised about. I have a double S, Sakura Miyu. I ranked her double S. She started out in 5th place, and she's increasing to 4th place. I feel like she'll continue to rise, just because people are going to see the merits. Yamamoto Suzu, she's double A. For me, she was in 1st place, but she dropped to 3rd place. I feel like I don't really, I didn't really get the appeal early on. I don't still get the appeal, but I know that she has a traditional kind of Japanese kind of face. Maybe that has something to do with it, but I don't know why she's dropping. But I don't know why she was high in the first place either. But she's not bad. She's a double A, which is pretty good in terms of my rank. Momona, also a double A, according to my ranks. She was 4, now she's increasing to 2. And I think it's because it's kind of like people just choosing a proven element. And so she was an idol before, and so was Kokoro. They were both idols before. Kokoro seems to be ranking better than Momona, and I don't know if it's because she cried, but she was S according to my rankings of her performance. And so my guess is she just looks better performing, and people are recognizing that. And so that's that. So in terms of my, I think in terms of my original top 11, I have about two people still in this top 11. I'm pretty sure Nano was not in my top 11, but she's close. Shimizu Keiko is in my top 11, and she's she's just outside the mark of the top 11. She's been dropping, she's been increasing her rank in the show, but she's not in the top 11 anymore. She dropped out of top 11. And then Nakano Kokona, she was in my top. She was like number 6 or something in my top 11. Now she was in B rank. She's still in B rank. She was in 16th place. Now she's increased to 13th place. And I don't know where that's coming from either. Like, I feel like the staring contest thing, people just start seeing it now, and now they're voting for her. I don't know. They didn't really highlight her much. And I don't know if she's gonna get a beneficial next episode. But it seems like she may be like complaining about stuff. Who knows? We'll see. Abe Nagome is kind of like the baby of this season, and so I don't know if she's gonna be like automatic Maknae material. The only other competition she has, I think she's ahead of her already. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I'm gonna mention for now. Very fun episode because I get to see performances. I like performances episodes better than kind of just random drama. There was behind the scenes drama, but I didn't focus on it too much. This review is taking too long. It's 37 minutes, so I'm gonna end it here. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know if you like them long or short. I didn't mean to make it that long. I didn't think it would be that long. But anyways, if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next episode.